A while back, I made a parody of a video of myself counting to 1 billion. I've always been fascinated with numbers as a kid, and when I first learned about the number 1 billion, I actually thought that the word billion was named after Bill Gates, because he was one of the most famous billionaires of our time, right? I thought that we had a word for million and we needed an even bigger number, and because of Bill Gates, we called it a billion. But I learned to my dismay that 1 billion seconds is over 30 years, and I would have had to been counting since the day I was born, and I would have just made it past 1 billion very recently. And nobody on the planet has ever made it to 4 billion, so it's a huge number. But if you look at the amount of gold that's still left on planet Earth, it literally is counting down from 1.7 billion at about an ounce every second, right? And what gets me really fascinated is that if you own even 1/4 ounce gold coin, that's about as much gold as your fair share should be, right? And it gets even better with silver. Most of the silver that's ever been mined has been consumed, right? And even a bunch of that is in hard to access places, right? That they're in collectibles, they're in people's jewelry, and nobody's going to melt that down. But even then, even if you count that, we still only have 19 billion ounces of silver. So if you own just 3 ounces of silver, right, which is only a handful of loose change in silver coins, that's more than your fair share, right? If you own a 10-ounce silver bar, which is very reachable for even the poorest Americans, right, that's that's 3 times your fair share of silver, right? And if you expect the dollar to be worthless, right, look at how much stimulus we're printing. Believe it or not, if you took the national debt, right, what is the national debt today? I want to see, I'm always fascinated with the national debt versus how much gold there is, right? So let's take 28.3 trillion, which is the current national debt, divided by 1900, the current price of gold. We owe 1.4 billion ounces of gold. And let's go back to, that's more than I think that's, wow, we just surpassed the gold reserve. Let's put that into perspective. Imagine that you're on an island, and there's yourself and 7 billion other people, and you've decided that gold is going to be the best currency in the world, right? This rock that you just found is going to be the best currency in the world. But you decided that you wanted to go into debt. So you took some paper, you wrote, I owe you a few ounces of gold, I owe you some ounces of gold, and eventually you didn't even put gold on the IOU anymore, right? And now looking back, even though the gold has been evenly dispersed, you don't own any gold anymore. It's the other people on the island who owe gold, and yet you owe everybody all of the gold on that island back to them, right? That's how the national debt looks like, right? Actually, it gets worse than that, right? Because if the feds tried to buy back all that gold, right, the gold prices would easily go to 6 or 7 figures, right? How about for platinum? 1 billion ounces. It takes about 1/7 of an ounce of platinum to own all of your fair share of platinum in the world, right? I think if you live in the United States, 1 ounce of platinum is a very easily reachable goal. Palladium, I think, is overpriced right now, but you have 1.2 billion ounces, right? Again, only takes a fraction of it, and I think it's easily reachable. I don't recommend it right now, though, because I think everything you can do with palladium, you can do with platinum. I think right now there's a bubble mentality. It happened in the early 2000s as well, when the Ford Motor Company tried to corner the market on palladium. What really scares me is lithium running out, because I take lithium orotate for seasonal depression. Can't really stock up on that either, so that kind of worries me a little bit, but I'm hopeful that we'll have better solutions in the future. Nickel, these are in tons now, 83 million tons. Let's do the math. 87 million tons, there are 32,000 ounces. Well, let's do pounds. 2,000 and divided by the world population of 7.8. About 22 pounds of nickels. If you like nickel, I recommend Canadian nickels made before 1981. It takes 100 of those to make a pound, 2,200 nickels. I think that's reachable for most people as well. Titanium is very common. I wouldn't recommend hoarding that. Zinc, maybe. It's used in galvanizing steel. Obvious source is pennies. I'd recommend going to the bank and getting uncirculated rolls of pennies if you're going to do zinc, because you might as well have uncirculated coins. Manganese, forget about it. Not easy to store physically. Copper, pennies before 1982. It takes, let's see, we got 861 million tons, so about 1/10 of a ton, right? 200 pounds. I think everybody should have 200 pounds of pennies. Aluminum, we're technically not going to run out of aluminum. The main threat to aluminum actually is the energy it takes to refine aluminum from its ore, right? Aluminum comes out of the ground as aluminum oxide. It takes a lot of energy to break it down into aluminum. That's why in Napoleon's time, right, before we knew the process to do it, we used to have to make aluminum out of sodium metal, if you could believe that. And as a result, aluminum was worth about 5 times as much as gold. Similar story with iron. It's all over the place. The problem is, of course, the cost of getting iron from iron oxide.